Now, Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell has told Sky News that the Home Secretary Priti Patel should be suspended following the resignation of the top civil servant at the Home Office. Sir Philip Rutnam quit yesterday, accusing Ms Patel of a vicious campaign against him and lying about her involvement in it. Labour leadership candidate Sir Keir Starmer has called on the Home Secretary to explain herself in Parliament. Well, joining me now from Westminster is Alex Thomas, former private secretary to the head of the Civil Service and currently Programme Director at the Institute for Government. A very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for being with us. Using your insider information, are these allegations correct?
Well, I don't know about insider information, and I didn't work in the Home Office, so I don't know if the allegations are correct. But I do know that Philip Rutnam is a pretty straight shooter. We don't know what has actually gone on inside the Home Office, but clearly it had become a very difficult working environment, and the top of the department wasn't aligned. When you have a Secretary of State and a permanent secretary who aren't working in alignment, that's not a recipe for a happy department, and it means that things tend not to get done.
Matt Hancock on Sky News today said that Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, is a very determined person, but also very courteous in her dealings. She, of course, denies all of this, and allies of her are saying today that he was on the way out anyway.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the report that we're expecting imminently on the Windrush scandal, the Williams review. There is a suggestion that there might be criticisms of the Home Office as a whole and of Philip Rutnam in that. So, I mean, we'll see. One of the things that it's clear is this is, as we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours and longer, descended into a really pretty fierce and brutal briefing and counter-briefing war. And that's going to get in the way of the government delivering its objectives and what it wants to do.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because Sir Philip took aim not just at Priti Patel, but also talked about a wider pattern in government. I mean, what does it show about the government's approach to the civil service, do you think?
It shows that it's determined not to brook opposition. It's fine and natural and completely correct that a democratically elected government with a large majority wants to get stuff done and get its agenda done. My personal view is that it's more likely to achieve that by working with institutions like the civil service than going to war with them. There's a touch of the scorched earth to the noises coming out of the government, and I think when a government isn't listening to critical advice and private issues or concerns or questions about whether its policies are deliverable or the right ones, then that makes for worse policy making and in the end worse government. You need to decide what you want to do and then listen to advice on the best way to do it. In the end, of course, the government gets its way.
Yeah, and also we need we need a bit of tension in government, don't we? We need feathers being ruffled, and we need sort of a bit of a shake-up sometimes in order to progress.
Well, there's grit in the oyster, isn't it? And certainly, my experience was that special advisors, whether they were in Number 10 or in individual departments, were actually really helpful at providing that grit. Special advisors and ministers and others do need. The civil service likes direction, and it does need a bit of challenge and testing, but the point is that has to happen. No one expects ministers to be entirely kind of perfect and never to swear or never to lose their temper. I don't think really that's what this is about. But in the end, you need to have a professional relationship of basic courtesy and respect.
I mean, I can't remember a resignation like this. Can you? I mean, it's pretty incredible.
No, not at this level. So there have been other resignations. Famously, the Michael Howard Newsnight interview, Derek Lewis resigned in the 1990s. Brodie Clark also resigned from the Home Office. He was working in the Border Force, but not a permanent secretary, and not getting the cameras out on a Saturday morning to do such a sort of personal and also actually quite emotional public statement. I can't think of any time that's happened.
So let's look to the future then. What happens next? I mean, how is he going to pursue his case?
Well, there's a formal process. It will be interesting to see how far he does pursue his case. Generally, these things, even when someone launches an unfair dismissal claim, tend to get sorted out behind the scenes. Philip is a pretty determined person, so we'll see how far he wants to pursue that. It will certainly be very difficult for the government and get very, very messy if they find that all sorts of documents and testimonies are going to be part of this formal process, because governments don't tend to like their and the civil service and ministers don't tend to like their laundry being aired in public in that way. So that's going to be a big distraction for the top of the government, and particularly for the Home Office, which of course has a massive agenda with the immigration reforms and everything else. The Home Office is a tough place with a big agenda at the best of times, and it's got a particularly difficult year or two ahead.
And finally, I mean, you seem a very diplomatic sort of chap. Have you ever had any sort of furious stand-up rows, feisty encounters with ministers in your time at civil service?
I'll take that as a double-edged compliment. I haven't actually. I mean, I've had, I've spoken frankly with ministers. I've been able to make the case when I think that they're doing something that won't work. But actually, my experience is that 99.9% of the time, relationships are pretty good. You would expect ministers as driven, ambitious people who have probably a different time horizon to civil servants. They want to get stuff done quickly. You'd expect them to be passionate about getting stuff done. And as I said earlier, and maybe this is me just being diplomatic, the civil service quite likes direction and leadership. The problem is if that does flip over into personal, lack of respect or bullying behaviour, and it looks like we're going to find out what happened in this case, but at the moment we just don't know. It's two competing stories.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, when the details come out. Alex Thomas, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.